This is On the Subject, the show discussing film, TV, and beyond, with your hosts Logan Noggle and Zachary Jackson, featuring Malcolm Russell Nelson. Everybody, go with the theme song.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Malcolm.
And we're here with Bryan Hill.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing?
Hey, great, man. You?
I'm excellent. I'm playing with my Batman fidget spinner right here.
Oh no, you're not a fidget spinner. No.
You know what? Just this little bat symbol thing I have, because it kind of looks like a little Batman thing, like he would actually use this on somebody, so it's kind of neat. It's just this black bat symbol that just spins around in a circle. That's pretty cool.
Okay, I can respect that. All right.
I do. In the Titans writers' room, I just sit in the corner like spinning the fidget spinner, like.
And everyone's just really intimidated by it. They're like, "Man,
yes,
that's scary."
I have ideas for the show.
That is a good way to let everyone know that you mean business.
Yeah, oftentimes, I'll just stand by the window with my back turned to them.
Just look out the window and be like, This city screams. Well, you were born to write Batman, then.
Yeah, because I'm crazy.
No, I didn't say that. Hang on.
That's a prerequisite, man. That's
not fair.
Yeah, anytime you're evaluating someone about whether or not they can tell a Batman story, you have to examine their level of insanity.
That makes sense. Look at all the writing years. You look at Grant and you look at Tom King, and that makes sense.
Yeah, crazy people. We're all crazy people.
Well, Bryan, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. I am new to your work. I know you've been doing some stuff, especially over the past few years. I actually just read Romulus, and I really loved it.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah, most people are new to my work. I spent years writing effectively indie comics for Top Cow. I wrote a book called Postal for about 3 years, and I've done some work in the Witchblade universe. But they hear you doing a Detective Comics run, and then suddenly everyone's like, "Who's that? Let me look this guy up." And so, no one cared who I was until I put on the mask.
There we go. That's what I want more of. Yes. Well, I actually grew to know your name because you write one of my favorite books coming out right now, which is Michael Cray.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's absolutely love. I love that book, man. It's so good.
Thank you. It's an interesting one because when Warren kind of reached out with Marie Javins over at DC, they were like, well, Michael Cray, and we want to do a kind of a side book, companion book to the Wildstorm, and I didn't know much about Deathblow, a little bit, but not a lot. Okay. But Warren was like, yeah, but you can do sort of whatever you want, and he had this idea about him hunting members of the Justice League, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then when I turned in the plots for the first 6, I was like, ooh, I have this idea, but I need more than a couple issues to deal with the characters. I need to kind of sit with them for the second half of the book, and he was totally in. So now we're getting into this whole business with an evil Diana Prince and John Constantine. Yes. I would say an evil John Constantine, but that's kind of redundant. So
Constantine, yeah, exactly.
It's just it's just a shitty John Constantine. Just he's in the shittiest mood.
Exactly, it's John Constantine on a Tuesday. That makes sense.
Well, you know how in every other Warren Ellis story, Constantine would accidentally send an innocent person to hell. Well, he's that guy, except it's not really by accident. So the Constantine is fairly accurate to character. But yeah, it's cool. Cray is a fun experience because I get to write kind of a action story with the kind of high stakes and violence, because it's not part of the main DC universe. It's sort of this kind of reflection of those characters, so you can do things that you just can't do in the normal continuity.
Exactly, exactly. Do you pick the heroes that you get to use? Like, is there like a mandate of certain heroes that you can use, or because I
The
mean,
first
like Wonder
couple,
Woman is the next one. Like, that's huge.
yeah, like the first couple were Warren's ideas. He wanted me to start off with Green Arrow. I don't know,
Oh,
maybe he just has a thing against Stephen Amell or something. I don't know.
hobo hunting Green Arrow is like the best.
I'm not
Like,
making news, Stephen. Don't call up Warren Ellis. He likes you fine. It's just a joke. Stephen takes things seriously.
oh, I'm sure he
Um,
listens to this too. I'm sure.
avid listener, avid listener. This
Oh
is what he
yeah.
listens to when he does those pull-ups. When he jumps up the bar. That's what he listens
Oh
to. Is his
yeah.
podcast.
The
Yeah,
fishbowl. Oh yeah, absolutely.
totally, totally. It's his workout companion.
It's mine.
Yeah. So Warren had the Green Arrow idea, and he also had the Flash idea. And then I was like, well, I want to throw Aquaman in there, and I want to make it kind of this Lovecraftian, almost like a weird gothic
Yeah.
fishing town story. And he
Yeah.
was into that. And then I was like, well, since everyone is talking about Wonder Woman, let's make her evil because I'm sure that'll make people like me more. So I'm pretty bad at this whole like, get people to like you thing. I'm never been especially good at it. And
No,
so I
really doing a good job.
yeah, I just thought it'd be really cool to like kind of explore. Well, modern Greece is really kind of scary right now. There's a lot going on there, and
Oh
it's a
yeah.
pretty intense region. So I wanted to reflect a little bit of that. And the series, it gets crazier every issue. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
when
That's
you're only
exactly what I
doing
love about
12.
it.
Yeah, like when you're only doing 12, you can really plan it out, and
Yeah.
you can escalate things in a real way. When you're just doing an ongoing, especially a within continuity ongoing, there's a little bit of a cyclical kind of thing you do,
Oh
right?
yes.
You
That makes sense.
you ratchet it up, bring it right back around, ratchet it up, bring it right back around. But if you're just doing a finite 12, you can really make some choices. I mean, the same thing with like Sean Gordon Murphy on Batman White Knight, because that's
Yeah.
his thing that's in its own little place. He can make moves in that thing that are really difficult to do in the main continuity.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, White Knight was really good too. I'd love sidebar. I'd love for you to do something like that. Like have your own little like other world. Not even like in Warren's world of the Wildstorm. Have your own little. That'd be
Yeah, that
cool.
would be cool. I mean, it's so weird, man, because I was working on the Titans television show and I was doing, the Postal comics I was doing, and I was writing Michael Cray at the same time.
Yeah.
But I never really considered myself like a guy that was going to become like a DC writer, really. Um, because like I had, I hadn't done the stuff. I figured, well, how it normally goes is you do like a short story in an annual, and then 2 years later you get another one, and then maybe you do like a one shot or something, and
Right.
then maybe you get like a little mini series sort of off the beaten path, like support, to what's
Right.
going on in the main.
Like a Richard
So
Dragon story.
yeah, which actually would be kind of fucking awesome, honestly.
Oh hell
Richard
yeah.
Dragon, man, I would
Hell
dive
yeah.
headfirst into that shit. But
My boy.
should I not use profanity because I kind of talk like a pirate?
Oh, it's totally fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're completely fine with it. My
Okay,
my
I
mom's
didn't.
not gonna listen to this anyway. She doesn't give a damn. So,
Okay, I didn't. I didn't want. I didn't know what your advertisers are going
no,
to say about
no,
this.
nah, it's totally
Um,
cool. Be free.
but yeah, so I wasn't even thinking that, man. I mean, I was on set in Toronto, like freezing my ass off because it was, I don't know, it was like Jupiter moon cold in Toronto. Like Toronto is technically Earth, but man, it just doesn't feel that way. Like the funny, like people in Toronto are really stylish once they get inside because outside they're just dressed for Hoth.
Bundled up.
So it's like a world of people wearing that same Han Solo coat, Um, so I'm sitting there and I'm freezing, and I don't know if for anyone listening who's never done film or TV production, when you write a television show, sometimes you get sent to set. And you have to be on set as a writer, really just to oversee things, answer questions if the director has them, occasionally talk to an actor or something if an actor has a question. But most of the time, you're just sitting there and waiting. I mean, television production, if you're not acting or directing or working on the crew, is really just a lot of sitting and waiting. So I was sitting there and they were shooting something, and I got this email from Chris Conroy over at DC, the editor over at DC, a really awesome guy. And he's like, hey man, would you be interested in writing a 5-issue arc of Detective Comics? So I sent an email back, and I was like, I didn't know there was a Detective Comics that didn't have Batman in it. And I'm like, you're not asking me to write Batman. Like, you have to like do things like Scott did American Vampire and the other thing and the other thing, and Tom King, in addition to having this really interesting personal life, also did like the Great Vision stories, like Sheriff of Babylon, like all this stuff, before he got on, like a top tier DC book. But he's like, no, it's been Batman. We want you to write that, and we kind of want to put Black Lightning in there, but we don't really, we're not going to force you to do anything with him. We just kind of want to see that pairing. And then I hopped on the phone with Scott Snyder, and he was really cool. I'd met him before. I was on a panel with him for Romulus, actually. One of my first, this is what a story world that I made up panel. It was like him, Marjorie Liu, Chris Burnham, and Declan Shalvey. We were all on that panel, and Scott. Panel. It is, man, and if you've ever talked to Scott, he's one of those guys where he doesn't carry the fact that he's Scott Snyder into a conversation. Oh, cool. He's just a dude. Like he's just, super supportive and positive.
That's awesome.
And, isn't kind of talking down to you from a high horse built out of money. So he was really cool. And he's like, yeah, man, we just want you to kind of tell the story. So I kind of pitched him. I mean, in Canada at the time in the production office, and I'm kind of walking around pitching him base ideas that I had. Like, what we could do is we could make this move, and then this thing could happen. And he was like, yeah, that all sounds really cool. So it came together really, really organically. That's why, I don't expect people to really know who the hell I am, because I didn't do all those little things, that one would do to get the platform like this. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and DC's been very, very supportive. Jeff Johns has been crazy supportive. So has Jim Lee, Dan DiDio. Dan was a big champion of my Hong Kong Fooey Black Lightning crossover that I got to do,
which was
over there.
So rad.
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, that was really Marie Javins, Jim Chadwick, and Dan made that happen. They were like, no, we want you to do this, and we want you to make this like. Go ahead.
They came to you on that.
Well, I was working with Marie on Michael Cray because she's my editor on that book.
Right? Yeah.
And she was also editing the Hanna-Barbera books at the same time. So like a year and a half ago or something, whenever I first started on Michael Cray, I was like, hey, I want to do a Hong Kong Fooey thing, but I want it to be kind of serious and feel like a 70s Kung Fu movie produced by Michael Mann. And so she looked at me for a second with that look like, I understand what all of those words mean individually. But the combination of those words, I'm pretty sure, is nonsense. And I was like, no. I have a whole vision, you see.
And
then I kind of...
That kind of makes sense, actually. That I could kind of see that.
Yeah, and I started talking to her about it, and she was like, okay, stop. She's like, we may do another batch of these, and if we do, then, I'll run the idea around. And she got it over to Jim Chadwick, and Jim got it over to Dan DiDio, that I met with Dan, who actually had a Kung Fu movie playing in his office when I met with him.
Oh, no kidding. Which movie?
I don't even know, man. It was a deep cut. It was like one of those, like, you get like 8 movies on the DVD box for like $3,
And one of them, like the main one, stars Jackie Chan, and then the rest of them are just like whatever movie just happened.
Yeah, it just has like some random title, like, One Killer, The Hard Mountain.
Knock off Shaw Brothers stuff.
Yeah, you're like, sure. 2 killers come in 3s. something like that. I don't know what it was. It was it was like a Tarantino scene or something. It's like, because Dan is like this huge personality, and he's such an awesome dude, but you know, he has like a force about him. So you're walking into his office, and there's a kung fu movie playing on the TV. I
Yeah.
felt like Christian Slater in like True Romance or something, man. Like this was, you know, like he was like Drexel just sitting there looking at me, you know, like
Yeah,
you gonna pitch me some Hong Kong fooey?
wow, that's a really good Dan DiDio. Wow.
So yeah, but he was awesome, man. So they got Dennis Cowan, and that was really cool because Dennis was a big influence on me growing up with The Question, and
exactly.
he details action and everything. So yeah, that was a really cool deal. So it seems like I've kind of sort of blindly stumbled in to being, on like the outer rim of DC Comics. And I'm grateful for it, and I'll stick around as long as people think my work is interesting.
Yeah, and I mean now you're doing detective, like that. What is that like to come from? I mean, started at you can't even really say the bottom, but now you're here. You know what I mean? Like you're doing detective.
Yeah. I'm like the Drake of comics, right?
Yeah. I hope you don't come across.
I'll take that.
Like, who's your Pusha
Yeah, well,
T?
I don't have any illegitimate children out there. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't do that part of it. See, you didn't get
bad.
Yeah, sometimes you go right when they went right, and sometimes you go right when they went left. Wait, I mean, detective it's I was a Shadow of the Bat, Legend of the Dark Knight kid growing up. Yeah, and yeah, like I love those really intense, atmospheric, moody, high stakes stories.
Oh yeah.
So, when I started thinking about it, the story came together fairly quickly because I'm such a fan of Batman that I think I'm walking around with like 501 Batman stories in my brain already. So,
not a bad thing.
Yeah, the story came together really, 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 really quickly, and then I went back and read a whole heap of James Tynion the Force work. Because I had read like up until the middle, I think, of his run, and then I got terribly busy with like TV stuff and screenwriting and everything else, and I just lapsed on my comic reading. So, but I was in Toronto for 6 weeks because the 2 episodes that I wrote on, they were shooting back to back, so I was basically in Toronto for a month and a half. So I had a lot of time, so I just went to Comixology and got all the stuff, and then read it and was like, okay, cool, and saw what he was doing.
Good.
Yeah, and then you got to figure out like, okay, how can I build on what he's doing but still be unique and authentic to me? And so I felt like he'd done such a good job with these sort of huge, sprawling, almost like science fiction stories.
Yeah.
That to try to continue that would likely fail. So what I decided to do was to kind of close it down a little bit and get something that was a little more like a Nolan story, with I guess a little Frank Miller sprinkled on top, and really make it like this kind of character-driven, action-focused crucible of a thing.
Cool.
To sort of just kind of transition a little bit, but still engage his ideas and further the characterization that he'd already started.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I mean, looking at like your lineup, like you already mentioned, you're bringing Black Lightning into it. But anytime I see Batman and Black Lightning together, I immediately hope and pray that there's gonna be some kind of Outsiders thing, because the Outsiders is like my DC team. Are you possibly trying to do like a new Outsiders thing? How you feeling on that?
Outsiders? What's that? I don't even know what that is, man. What is that? That thing? Outside. I'm inside right now. I'm inside. I'm doing the podcast. I'm inside.
No, okay. Fair enough. All right.
Yeah,
We'll move on. On Twitter, you're a big advocate for Cassandra Cain. What is it about that?
I am
that draws you in. Like, what is it about Cassandra Cain that you love?
Well, I'm a big proponent of characters that have to fight for it. I believe very strongly that the protagonists in stories need to endure and overcome, and sometimes they fail and they have to figure out how to get around that failure. It's the mythological parts of my imagination. And when I read the original kind of Batgirl run with Cassandra, I love the character because she fit really well into the Batman universe. It's almost like Batman would be the only character that would taken upon himself to try to manage someone like that.
Oh yeah.
And she was fighting to redefine herself outside of what she was raised to be. Romulus has a lot of those influences in it, right?
I was going to bring that up, actually. I saw a lot of cats in
there's a lot of
Ashlar.
cast in Ashlar. Yeah, there's a lot of cast in that. And Nelson Blake, the artist, Nelson Blake and I, we talked about Cassandra Cain as kind of an inspiration because back when we were planning Romulus, she was kind of gone from the scene, really. She wasn't active very much, and she'd been
into Batman Robin Eternal, right?
Right, and she like floated around for a bit. She was Batgirl, then she wasn't, then she was like bad, but then she wasn't really bad, and so she was making all these moves, but we really wanted to capture that energy because I think the lessons in the hustle are really important to me, and Batman is a character that is doing the impossible. He's just a guy. I mean, he's a very rich guy, well trained and all that, but he's always fighting against his own human frailty, and so she is as well. And as a martial artist and a person who really admires people who fight through adversity, I've always just thought she was a really fascinating character to explore. So when I found out that I could have her in Detective, that was really exciting to me because I get to do a Cassandra Cain fight scene.
There you
awesome.
Go. There you go. And especially with Black, I like the idea of having like Black Lightning be kind of like the mentor, kind of like a training day kind of thing for Cass. I think
what we're doing is we're what's interesting to me about Black Lightning, about Jefferson Pierce, is he's an educator, and so he works with young people in his own way as well, right? And he has a different perspective on that than I think Bruce Wayne does. So putting these two fellas in a room makes a lot of interesting, kind of drama take place because someone like Jefferson would probably look at what Bruce is doing and say, this is completely insane. You know that, right? Like, none of these kids need costumes. They need therapy. You need therapy.
Yeah, Jefferson will definitely keep it real like that, for
So
sure.
we get a lot of that. We get to explore that stuff. I mean, having somebody who has an outside perspective on the Bat family, and Bruce, who also doesn't, tiptoe around Batman when he's explaining how he feels about things, exactly. I think makes it interesting, and it also speaks to why Bruce Wayne would want to reach out to a guy like Jefferson.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. I love the two of them together whenever they show up. But like I said, the Outsiders is like my gang. But I just think Black Lightning's the coolest character. Are you watching the show? Are you into the show?
I watched a lot of it because those guys who write the show, guys and women, they're women on the show as well. I think that they're on the second floor and Titans is on the third.
Oh, no kidding.
So I see them a lot. Yeah, we're all all the Berlanti stuff is in the same building out here in LA.
That makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Supergirl's out there, Arrow's out there, Flash is out there, Legends, we're all in the same thing. I mean, I've been in an elevator when Melissa's been in an elevator when I was in an elevator.
Oh my God, you're so lucky.
Yeah, stuff like that just goes down. It's wild over there. That's I wasn't around, but who's the actor? She plays Ollie's sister on Arrow.
Willa Holland.
Willa Holland. She was around one day, and I wasn't in the office. I don't know why. I guess she just came upstairs or something. But yeah, that stuff happens all the time. So I would see the Black Lightning crew when we, there's a little cafeteria down there, and you could go in there and grab some lunch or something. So I would catch up with them and try to catch up with the show. It's hard for me to really watch anything, honestly, with everything that I'm doing because I'm writing. I'm writing TV. I'm also working on my own screenplays. I'm writing. At any given time, I'm probably writing at least 3 or 4 books a month.
Yeah.
Between the big 2 stuff I'm doing and the indie stuff I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just don't have a lot of time. I got to play the Division in there too, right? So, I mean, that
Division 2.
well, I mean, that vector isn't going to upgrade itself. You know what I mean? Like,
Someone's got to do it.
someone has to get out there and pacify those streets. So, yeah. So I liked what I saw very much. Now, I will say that my Jefferson in Detective is a little younger than their Jefferson in Black Lightning.
Which I like that they're doing that with. I mean, that's a benefit of having still coming out of the New 52 era of characters. I think that's kind of
right.
To have a little bit of a younger version, because I mean, when I started heavily reading comics, the version of Black Lightning I was running around, he was the Secretary of Education, and then he was back on the Justice League, but he was older, and it's more like how he is on the show, older, more experienced, still has a little bit to learn, but is pretty wise, but I like that the comic version running around is, a little younger, a little rougher around the edges, still kind of angry, which is cool.
Yeah, he's like trying to I look at Will Smith performances when I think about him, Jamie Foxx in a few things when I think about him, like that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of not the Shazam Jamie Foxx, not that guy.
No, like Jamie Foxx. Not that I have Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx. I have nothing to look, get your money, Jamie. Again, not throwing any shade. But that dude is wild. Like
and now he's nominated.
He like yeah, he can like sing. He won an Oscar, I think. Yeah, got nominated for another one.
Yeah,
he like won for Ray Charles. Like,
right? Yeah,
that dude has so much talent. Is wild. Yeah. Like, I'm just lucky he doesn't write comic books, or I'd be in trouble.
He might after the Spawn thing. He might. You never know.
Yeah, you never know, man. Jamie, don't start writing comic books on me, dog. Like, come on, man. You gotta leave a little bit for Young Hill out here. Like Young Hill need a little something too. I got a little dog to feed, man. I got a puggle I gotta take care of, man. You taking kibble out the puggle's mouth, man. That's not cool, man. Little Bogey needs to eat too, bro.
Oh, you really give him Bogey?
Yeah, he's Bogey because he has this thing where his lip kind of occasionally won't close over his teeth. So he has this like little tough guy face. So sometimes he walks around mean mugging.
Oh my god.
And it's the funniest thing because he doesn't know it because he's a dog. He doesn't know it, but he just looks at you like, sup? What's up?
Yo, you got any begging strips? I said, yo, you got any begging strips?
Yeah, come on, man. Like, he like looks at me when I'm eating and it's like, I know you're gonna break me off some of that chicken tender. Like, I know you're not just gonna sit there and eat that chicken tender and not give Bogey some.
That's great. Oh man.
Yeah, so yeah, he's a good dog. But yeah, so like, it's not that the Jefferson I'm writing can't be the Jefferson on that show.
He one day
it's just that
he's just not there yet.
Yeah, I'm a little, kind of earlier in that journey, I'd say, where he's collecting the experiences that would lead him to the kind of wisdom and greater understanding he's got on the TV show.
Exactly. That's great. I love it. Oh man. Well, okay, I'll get to that in a minute. Can we? Is it too early to talk about American Carnage?
I can talk about it a little bit. Yeah, okay. Sure. You can ask me some questions. I don't want to divulge the entire plot.
No.
But yeah, I can answer questions for sure. It's anything that's been like announced, I can certainly talk.
Okay, fantastic. Because when I saw that announcement last week, I seeing the whole Vertigo thing. Backstory about me. I work at a comic shop.
Yeah.
And the comic shop that I work at in Tucson.
Which one?
Heroes and Villains.
Hey everybody, listening to this. If you're listening to this in the Tucson area, make sure you go to Heroes and Villains and pick up some books.
Bryan, you're too good to me, man. You're too good to me. The funny thing about my shop, Eric used to work there. Eric Escobar.
Oh, yeah,
okay. So I know him from working at the shop. And so when I saw the Vertigo announcement and Border Town was like the first thing on there, I was like, whoa. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, I saw yours, American Carnage, which is right up my alley. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So for people listening who aren't aware, American Carnage is part of this new Vertigo lineup. They are, I think, for the 25th anniversary, they're putting out a series of new titles. And I think I know mine's an ongoing. I don't know if they're all ongoing. Some might be minis. I'm not sure. But they've got a collection of. Yeah, I mean that's where we're. I've got at least, I would say 12 already kind of set out, and we'll see. I mean, if there's an appetite for it, I can certainly continue on and do more. But yeah, so American Carnage is one of the books that's part of that lineup, and it's me on writing duties, Leandro Fairman on not Leandro Fairman, Leandro. What's his last name? Is his last name Fairman? I just call him Leo, so that's why I don't know what his last name is.
The great Leo. No, I totally get it. Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up right now because I'm gonna consult Brother Eye and find out.
Don't joke about that. That's not funny.
Right.
The world's not ready for Brother Eye. That's a step too far.
The world can't wait for Brother Eye. Leandro Fernandez. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, cool.
If we wait for the world to be ready, the world won't survive.
Ooh.
So Leandro Fernandez is on pencils and inks, and then we've got Dean White doing colors, who's amazing. And so it's a story that's based on a lot of research I did, and I didn't initially plan to launch this story as a comic, right? So the backstory of this is the concept is there is a mixed race FBI agent who can pass for a white guy, and he's disgraced from the FBI because he's done some rough stuff. Okay. And then he's brought back in by a friend who's still part of the bureau to go undercover into a white supremacist organization because she believes they are responsible for the death of a fellow agent, right? So that's the engine that kind of gets it all going, kind of the classic kind of, get next to the devil kind of engine, right? And it was born out of personal research. When Charlottesville happened, when that shooting happened, Dylan Roof thing, and it all went down. And I mean, this is back when Obama was president, and the conversations kind of started to turn to, well, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? And as a person, I don't like boogeymen very much. I like to demystify things as much as I possibly can. And so I didn't want to just take the media's reporting on what supremacist groups might be like and just kind of regulate people to being monsters, because I don't think that's very useful. So I started reaching out to supremacist groups. I started off with message boards and got a little travel there, not too much because message boards aren't always the best place to have an intelligent conversation. But I did get pointed towards the direction of some people that would talk to me. And I did some phone interviews. I did some in-person stuff. I'm from Missouri, so when I went back home to Missouri for the holidays, I met with a few people there, and I didn't, come in accusing them of anything. I wasn't trying to start an argument. I just said, hey, I just want to know what your perspective is and how you got to where you are. And I got a lot of interesting, kind of, scary stuff. I mean, some people were pretty rude, I'd say. Yeah, of course. But it's really hard to get a rise out of me. I don't know if you've seen me on Twitter, but it's like impossible to get a rise out of me.
Really admire that.
Yeah, well, I've been shot at before, so I always have context. Anytime someone says something to me on social media and I start to get upset, I remember dodging that bullet, and I'm like, you know what? They can carry on. You have a good day, sir.
That's a good thing. That's chill. I like that.
Yeah, so I talked to a bunch of folks, and and did some more research and talked to some people at the ACLU, talked to some people, Southern Poverty Law Center, done some work with them. I talked to some former FBI agents who had worked undercover and done some of that work to find out the human cost of all that. And I didn't know what this was going to turn into. I mean, I'm a writer, so I'm always doing something like this, right? And you're just compiling things, and you're trying to see, is there a world here that I can flesh out and make it interesting that is worth telling a story in? So, flash forward to about 6 months ago, Andy Corey reaches out and is like, hey, man, we're thinking about doing this relaunch, and we just want to know if you've got anything that would be interesting. Because I had met Jamie Rich when I was working on Michael Cray. Okay. And he kind of introduced me to Andy Corey over there. And I was like, well, I have been talking to Ku Klux Klan and skinheads and FBI for the past few years. And he's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm always serious." So that's where that came from, and then I was like, okay, like I can kind of turn this into a narrative, and so for people listening that are interested, in what I'm saying, it's really important to me that folks know my intention with this story isn't to demonize anything, right? I don't judge my characters. I present a story. I have characters within the story that make choices, and those choices have consequences. But I let readers make up their own mind. So I look at this similar to the experience of maybe watching The Americans or something. Like you're watching that and you're like, wow, they're Russian spies, and so they're trying to make America worse. Yet I'm kind of on their side right now, and I don't know how I feel about that.
The timeliness of that show, let me tell you. Wow.
Yeah, right? Yeah, crazy. It's crazy. So it's that kind of experience. It's a crime story much more than it's a political story. I mean, we do have questions about identity, but not just identity in a surface sense, black, white, Jewish, Latino, what have you. It's identity in a deeper sense. Right. Like how do you identify your own nature, really? It's about power and manipulation, fear, and how anger stems from fear. And no one in the story is perfect. Everyone is highly flawed. And I'm kind of proud of the fact that I think we were able to avoid the low-hanging fruit. Yeah. We were able to not just do something that felt like a political diatribe. Because I don't think you can read that book and know, what party I tend to vote for. Right, which is kind of always my goal in writing, is never to turn my writing into a political soapbox of any kind. Yeah, because I just don't think that's good writing. I mean, if I want to, look, I am interested in people's opinions about politics, but that's why I go to nonfiction, or I go to something that's a really like a really strong deep dive, right? Like a House of Cards or something. Like where. This is about politics, the ideology, the machinery, all that stuff. Bo Williman, the creator of that, is a friend of mine. He and I went to high school together.
Oh, okay.
And, we still talk from time to time, and he's kind of inspired me to take more risks with my work because his work is so stark and so strong. Okay. So, American Carnage is like a take no prisoners crime, tale. I liken it in feel to things like Preacher, 100 Bullets, Criminal. Classic Vertigo, right? Because they're also doing the Sandman relaunch, which is awesome. But they've got the kind of mysticism stuff kind of wrapped up. And then I looked at the other titles that they were putting out, because some of them were shared with me when I first started the pitching process. And I'm like, okay, well, you've got a cool magic thing, you've got this other thing, you got a cool sci-fi thing, but I don't see like that crime book, the one that makes your face make the stank face, And I'm like, I think I got your stank face book. Where like people read it and it's like, that boy really did that, huh?
I will be sure to do that now.
I mean, if everyone isn't mad at me, then I'm doing something wrong, right? So like, I expect Republicans to be mad at me. I expect Democrats to be mad at me. Libertarians, mad. Communists, mad. Anarchists, mad. Like,
you just want everyone on that page.
Like it's
all right. That's fair.
Yeah. I'm like Chris Rock or something, man. I want everybody mad at me.
Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, that was not Chris Rock right now. That was not actually Chris Rock. I need to express that.
Yeah. But like that's the stuff that's what I think is exciting about it. And I think that when you see that cover, right? When you see Ben Oliver's cover, if that interests you, if you look at that cover to American Carnage, you're like, oh man, I kind of like this stuff. I think you're looking for something that's really going to, push you and pull you and surprise you and get you to feel things about people that you wouldn't think you could feel those things about while still having contempt for their actions and their beliefs. It's not easy. I don't think that should be an easy experience.
That
So
is exactly
yeah,
what I
the
want.
first issue comes out in November. I'm really excited about it, and I'm really grateful that Vertigo and DC have been so supportive of the project, because they've never tried to mute me in any way. They've never told me to shave a corner. I turned in scripts that are pretty stark, and they've always been 100% behind what I'm doing. And I'm really excited to get that book into readers' hands.
No, I am when like I said, when I saw that announcement, me being a young black guy, I got very nervous and very excited at the same time. I was like, oh boy.
See? I want you nervous. I want you so nervous.
I was like, he's gonna piss off the wrong people, and people are gonna come after him, and then people are gonna be asking me about that in the shop, and I don't want to answer that.
I mean, I tell you what, like, I just real talk for a second. If you hear what I'm saying and you're like, well, I'm a writer, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, some ground rules. So, 1, don't go to an extremist message board from your own IP address.
I saw you tweeting about
Never
that.
do that. Get a cheap computer that you don't care about, right? Just something that can get on the internet. Go to a coffee shop. Do it from there. Don't do it from your home machine. 2, if you're going to meet somebody in person, do it in a place where you can get away. Right? Like, don't just go places. Don't let somebody put a burlap sack over your head and put you in the back seat of something. Like, no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it doesn't work out for the person in the movie, and it ain't gonna work out for you either. So don't do that. If you're gonna do phone conversations, get a burner phone. Get like a track phone or something where you can just dump it when you're done, because you don't want your real phone number in the hands of these folks now. Now I'm somewhat insulated because I'm not famous by any means, but I'm what they would call notable, right? Like, you could Google me and then things come up. So it's not really in anyone's best interest to do something violent to me. But I will also say that I gave everyone my word that I was never going to reveal their personal details. Okay. I would never verbatim recreate something that they told me in a narrative. And I wasn't going to, to specifically attack any organization. These are all fictional organizations based on real organizations, fictional characters that are based on amalgams of people, not just an avatar for one person, right? So that helped protect me. So if you're going to do dangerous research, which I do from time to time, just make sure you take the same journalistic precautions that anybody would take when they were going to do something of that sort.
Okay. Wow, I really like how respectful you are of all the sides on this.
Well, I mean, I obviously don't agree with white supremacy, right? So,
boy, that's a hard one to explain.
I mean that's like an episode of Atlanta or something. But like
Tyrone Biggums from Dave Chappelle,
Yeah, some Tyrone Biggums, right? But in a way, it's almost like only that saying, only Nixon could go to China. In a lot of ways, I could meet with these folks and talk to them and kind of write the story, because I am kind of permanently on the other side of what this is, and I wanted to get into the heart of the common denominators of all of it, and I personally think that there are people who don't care about identity politics at all, who only care about their power and money, and they tend to exacerbate our interest in identity because it keeps us fighting each other instead of realizing that they have all the power.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the ideas there. But it's not a recruitment pamphlet for the modern SS either. So I don't think it's going to be very popular in some parts.
No, it's good. You're rattling the cages. That's good.
All right, rattle them, man. Rattle them cages.
To jump across the street, I think the only only Marvel book that I've seen your name attached to is the Miles Morales annual, right? The Spider-Man annual.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did a one shot Hulk Amadeus Cho Hulk
Oh, that's right.
story last
The
year.
Monsters Unleashed one.
Monsters
That's right.
Unleashed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
great.
yeah. I did that, and that was my first Marvel thing. Chris Robinson was the editor of that one, and that was a really, really fun experience because I love the Hulk, and I cheated and found a way to put Bruce Banner in it because I told him that was one of my stipulations that I had to put Bruce Banner in there somewhere.
Smart.
And I ran that by Greg Pak, and he was like, "That's fine." And I was like, "Cool." So yeah, I did that, and that's when I was working on Ash versus Evil Dead. So I was writing that show at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I did. I wrote in the third season.
Oh, cool.
And for that show, I conjured up real demons and talked to them. No, I'm just kidding.
Again, burner phones.
Just yeah. Hey, look, if you're gonna conjure up a real demon, definitely do it at a Starbucks.
Yep, don't use your street corner for the Crossroads demon.
Definitely don't use your street corner. Same rules apply, man.
That's the way to go.
Yes. If you're going to talk to Leviathans, then just make sure that they don't have your home number because that'll get complex really quick.
Get really dicey. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I was working on that and then did that, and that went well. And I wasn't really chasing comic work in general because I was kind of busy, and so and when you're working on a show, I think it's a little disrespectful to the showrunner to be freelancing too much, right? I think the showrunner should believe that everyone that's working on the show is dedicated first to the project, right? So I would, answer emails if incoming things came my way. I would evaluate them, but I wouldn't just run out here chasing work because I just think that would be not really my place to do. Part of the reason why you get paid well when you work on a TV show is so you can focus on their TV show and not on whatever, DeLorean you're building in your barn.
Exactly.
So I wasn't really chasing stuff, but Chris and I, we became friends, and we would just kind of go back and forth and talk to, about different issues and characters and ideas. Then he reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you and Nelson like to work on a Miles Morales annual?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." Because Nelson and I haven't worked together since Romulus. Yeah. So, yeah, I got busy on Hollywood stuff, and then he got busy over at Marvel doing Luke Cage with David Walker. So we just, we couldn't get back into it that we wanted to. But this seemed like a great way for us to work together and also introduce comic readers to the kind of work we do together.
Exactly.
So if they read it and they're like, "Yo, this is dope. This is a cool story. Who did this story? Oh, these guys." And then if we decide to work on another book, either we wanted to definitely go back to doing more Romulus. So more Romulus is definitely on the way. But whether it's that or we're going to do like a big 2 thing or what have you, we think it's a nice kind of easy buy-in for people into the way that creative team works together. So yeah, the Miles, I don't know when that comes out. It's later on this year for sure. August. I think it's August. Okay, so it's like a little bit before the game comes out, I think, because there's going to be a lot of Spider-Man. Because there's the game, there's the CGI movie, there's the Miles annual. So we're sort of part of that explosion of Spider stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Now I want to say, and I don't know what ethnicity is Nelson. Do you know?
He is half Panamanian, half black. Okay,
cool. Well, I want to say then, I think you guys are the only black creators to work on Miles Morales.
We might be. Well, frankly, there's just not a lot of black writers in comics,
exactly,
really.
Which actually brings me to that's my point. Like, what is that like being in such a small? I mean, either indie or not. Like, there's not a lot of black creators in comics. What is like? Is there?
Well,
it's like what is that like?
It's easier than talking to skinheads.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just to be completely honest, I've spent my entire life working to not be part of like a quota and not be a symbol and be an individual. right? Like I've really spent a lot of time doing that, and I try to not do things just because I feel like, oh, they just want a black guy to write this because of reasons,
Exactly.
right? So I try to keep my work as varied as possible because I do believe that anyone should be able to write anything if they have the talent and the ability and the drive to write it. I think there's a dangerous thing when we're saying that you have to be in order to write. Because you're inadvertently, what you're doing is you're also locking people out of opportunities as well, right? In the effort to try to get opportunity for people, you're locking people out. And although the human mind and the human heart is flawed, and certainly people tend not to reach out past their circles, I do think the more we fight for a meritocracy, the better off it's going to be for everybody, ultimately, right? So, I mean, I don't really think about it that often. I mean, black people are only like 13% of the population, so unless you're in a McDonald's commercial on BET, you probably aren't going to be surrounded with black people. Because I guess we don't understand the white commercials, right?
No. Listen, I've never had a Levi's jeans commercial speak to me before. I just don't get it. Like,
since I was a kid, I never got that. It's like, you realize McDonald's, white people can sell us Big Macs too. It's not like we need the hip hop to understand that you sell burgers and fries. Like, it's just, I thought that was the silliest thing in the world. I used to work in advertising.
Be like, yo, dog, are you into this burger? I'm like, yeah, damn, I am into that burger. You right?
That's not how we talk or behave. I used to work in advertising. I went to NYU film school, and when I came out of film school, I had a degree that was equal parts expensive and useless. So I had to figure out things to do, and I kind of fell into doing some ad work. I remember there was a fast food client. I'm not going to say which one it was, but we were talking about the McDonald's. It wasn't McDonald's, but we were talking about the McDonald's ads. And I was part of like the youth marketing whatever. Basically, my job was to hunt culture stuff and bring it into the office and say, hey, if you do this, it'll be cool.
Okay, yeah.
They paid me a little bit to go out and do a bunch of stuff. And I was like, we understand everything. We get it. Like, we totally understand Friends. like I care about Ross and Rachel too.
No, I see.
All right?
That's the difference between us. I don't.
Like.
It just doesn't speak to
That's
me.
funny. Well,
Aisha Taylor,
I always had
but
I had more of a thing for Kudrow, actually, if we're gonna go to the Friends thing, because she was kind of weird. She was kind of coffee shop weird, coffee shop weird, man.
Okay.
Kind of dig that.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I try as much as I can to eliminate the like the little kind of Venn diagrams that people get put into, because I think that's not great for culture and entertainment writ large. I think we've got to stop looking at people in terms of what they are and pay more attention to what they can do, and just let people who have the ability and the passion to do something get an opportunity to do it. I think that's as fair as you can get, and as long as you're not excluding somebody because they are a thing, then I think that's just a better way to go, right? Like, so yeah, I don't honestly think about it that much, only when like someone rude on Twitter reminds me. Oh, that's interesting. Why would you call me that? Oh,
as you look down at your hands, you're like, oh God,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, and that's the kind of messages I try to get out there, and I talk to kids, because I do a lot of like little conversations where I'll talk to kids at like schools,
cool.
and sometimes they're at-risk kids that are going through some stuff, and a lot of them are Black and Latino. Not always, but a lot of them, there are. And I just want to instill in them this idea that no one can tell you what you can and can't be, man. Like
that's cool.
You can define it for yourself. So yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I'm certainly aware of the fact that if I succeed, it will make it easier for other people who may look like me to succeed.
Right.
Um, but I try to keep all of that out of my head when I'm working, and just try to do the best work I can.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate hearing that. Actually, again, as a young black guy, I really appreciate hearing that. That's awesome.
Yeah, when I was your age, we had the Nintendo. And you didn't have a life bar. You got hit, and then you got small. And then if you got hit again, you got dead.
Yeah, things were a lot simpler then.
They were a lot simpler. You guys with your blinking life bars and your regenerating health. Get out of here, man. Fuck is that? Yeah. Regenerating health. Man, you had to beat Mega Man in one day or you was never gonna beat it. You just couldn't leave. You couldn't shit. You couldn't piss. You couldn't eat. You had to hold that little Snickers bar size control in your hand. Yep. Your thumbs were popping out of their sockets, but you had to win.
Yep. And if you don't, then you go back and do it again.
Problem with you kids. There's a health bar. Y'all got too many health bars. That's the problem.
Some people complain about the trophy. Some people complain about the health bars. Yeah.
Couple of damn health bars, man. Goddamn health bars. That's when it all went to shit.
Well, before we wrap this up, are there any other characters that you really want to touch on? Like, who are your comic characters? Who are your guys? I have to specifically ask. My girlfriend will kill me if I don't ask you. Do you have any plans to do anything with Drake?
With who?
Tim Drake.
Oh, I didn't hear the Tim, and I was like, you mean like a record? I was like, I mean, if he come through with some beats or something, man, you know.
Do you have any plans to do anything with Drake? I mean, that'd be cool.
I mean, the Drake, my Drake joint would be one of those ones that starts with a phone call, a little movie joint.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you would come to the club or something, But Tim Drake, okay, Tim Drake.
Too. That definitely works for Tim.
Yeah, well, if Tim Drake comes through with some beats, I can maybe bring something up. I actually do produce music.
Yeah. Right.
As a hobby, I'm a music producer, and I've produced like some super indie hip hop stuff and some R&B stuff I've done. Yeah, I just what it is. It's good to have something you create that you don't care if you sell, right?
Oh, I get that.
Because now my writing is my business.
Yeah.
That's my livelihood, right? So there's always a price point associated with it, and I have to keep a price point associated with it. Even if I want to work on something, I think it's cool, just because of the way the business works, I can't just do free work for people. But with music, man, I can just kind of jump in there and get it done. Same way with photography. If you go to my Instagram, I got some photos up there. Filmmaking, still a passion of mine, but I haven't really converted into a revenue stream by intention because I just want to, kind of like to go out and do it. To answer the question, yeah, James did a great job of having Tim kind of need to get some space from it.
Yes.
Need to do things his own way. So I'm not sure if right now is the best time to do like a Tim focused thing. I think it might be interesting to kind of come back to him in a little bit and see like what happened. Like, what'd you do? What were you and stuff up to out there in that convertible? What was going on? So for sure, I think there's certainly interesting things that could be done with the character. And if I had a story that I thought served the character and the fans of the character well, then yeah. I mean, my rule is always, I'm not going to throw somebody into a book just to have them like wave and go away. If they're in the book, well, you read some comics like that, right? Like where you read some comics and you're like, listen, you don't really like, Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I call that the War Machine complex, where most of the time when War Machine shows up somewhere, it's just because you have to have someone and he's there.
Yeah, like you want people to be passionate about the characters that they're writing. So, I would only throw a character in a story if I thought I could do a semi-deep dive on that character and make that character matter, really. But yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not anti-Tim Drake at all.
Good. Okay, she'll be very happy to hear that. Are there any other comic characters that you really dig that you wanna get your hands on?
Yeah, well, I like the weird ones. Like I think Bendis is hinting at maybe doing something with the question, but I've always liked the question.
I saw that the other day and was very excited.
I think that's an interesting character. So that, I'm really excited if he actually does do something there. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah.
Lady Shiva, I would love to do Lady Shiva.
Ooh, yeah.
Do a real strong story with her and kind of get into her mentality. Richard Dragon, like you mentioned, I think it could be really cool.
Yes.
I love Constantine. I'm having a ball writing John Constantine and Michael Cray.
Yeah.
So
you write
being,
he's the right amount of gross.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Talking about things black guys don't do. Yeah. And I like writing John Constantine a lot. I mean, I'm kind of an Anglophile too. Like I'm like a, kind of weird early '80s Brit pop head.
Cool.
So I get to get into that whole thing and kind of Grant Morrison a little bit out there. Like it's good. You're a sorcerer. You can change the world. If you just dead, it's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, Grant Morrison just walked on the
So yeah, Constantine would be a ball. Dr. Fate would be really interesting.
Oh, hell yeah.
Talking about all my I'd love to do that. I think one of the things I've always wanted to do was like a Sicario toned violent crime drama starring Lois Lane.
Ooh.
And really make it about the intersection of journalism and danger and global threats and give it kind of a Jason Bourne sort of feel, and team her up with interesting of side characters.
Fuck yeah.
I think that could be really, really, really fun. And on the Marvel side, Doctor Strange, I'd love to take a stab at. A Punisher, Blade. I mean, people who follow me, they know the kind of stuff I like, man. Yeah. I like them stank face characters. That's my thing. Like if a character makes somebody go, that's probably a character that I want to mess with.
Well, you may like the stank face characters, man, but your work is definitely not giving me a stank face. I gotta say, you are.
I'm glad to hear that. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone in comics, readers are awesome. People are so supportive and so cool. I joke about dealing with people on Twitter, but man, I get one rude tweet every 6 weeks, basically. And on my Twitter feed, man, we got Republicans, Democrats. We got everybody, man. We got left, right, center. I got old people, young people, women, men, and everyone, we chat about the stuff we like. We get along. We're respectful to each other. And it's the community that's so great. That's just kind of down with just meeting each other around the things that we love. So I really appreciate how welcoming the culture has been. Because, I mean, who the hell is Bryan Hill, man? Why is he writing Batman? Fuck is that guy?
He's the leader.
Well, just because he has a baritone, he gets to write Batman? Yeah. Is that all it takes? Just a deep voice, huh?
Yes, it is. That's why Barry White wrote the best Batman story that no one will ever know about.
I got this Batman story, baby. Batman story.
That was the original Batman got married story,
We're going to put the signal off tonight, baby. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, I did it. Right here on your podcast, I did it.
Yeah. So, I don't know what we're talking about. Combo fans, friends, people follow me on Twitter. I love y'all. Much love from Bryan Hill. I hope you feel it every time. Thank you.
Yeah. What's your Twitter handle again?
It's my name. It's at Bryan with a Y because we like you. At Bryan Edward Hill is my Twitter name. It's funny. Matt Hawkins, the Top Cow president. Yeah. A guy I work with on Postal, and I'm doing Cyberforce right now and working with him on that. And he was giving me shit because my Twitter handle was too long. He's like, you shouldn't have used your full name. I'm like, brother, when I started a Twitter account, I did not have the foresight to make my name Skibbity Doo 112. I didn't know.
It's like your
whenever
your name.
Yeah, man,
Email.
dude. Whenever a new social media platform comes out or like a new email thing comes out, I just get my name.
Yep, I get it.
And just throw it up there, right? Like so all your flippy doos and your notches and whatever the hell else is out there, like it's usually my name.
2 questions from a friend of ours named Luis Silva. First of all, he was wondering what's the process like from pitch to printing.
Oh, like from like a writer's perspective?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so writing is easier than drawing. I'm just going to say that. And writers can at me if they want. But writing is easier than drawing because drawing takes physical dexterity. You cannot do it that fast. I can write comfortably 5 comic books a month. There is no artist on earth that can draw 5 comic books a month.
No.
So from a writer's perspective, you write the script and then so I'm going to back up a little bit and get into pitching because anyone who's like asking questions probably wants to know a little bit about how to get a career going. So, okay. People may think, well, Bryan, he's like a Hollywood guy and that's why he got the comic book and the rest of it. No, that's not true. What happened was I've spent like 10 years basically trying to get people to pay attention to me and nobody would. And then the first person that did was Matt Hawkins over at Top Cow, and I wrote a short story in a Broken Trinity trade paperback.
Oh, okay.
Ron Mars
Yeah.
kind of brought me in too. Ron's been kind of a mentor to me. I call him Obi-Ron because he taught me a lot about format and everything else. And so I did that, just drips and drabs. Did a single thing called 7 Days from Hell. Co-wrote that with Rob Levin. Phil Noto did the art on that before. Phil Noto was like Phil Noto. He was just Phil Noto.
Wow.
So he was still awesome, but he wasn't like the unattainable guy just draws Daisy Ridley all day. Like he was still work with him. And Phil was amazing. And so he did that book. But so it drip. So the first thing you do is you pitch. Now, the thing with pitching, I don't really pitch. People ask me all the time, like, well, how'd you pitch Detective? How'd you pitch this? I don't really pitch. What I like to do is get in conversations with people. And so when someone asks me to pitch something, I usually say, okay, well, I ask some questions first. Well, first I have a couple questions. And that way I can kind of I can understand like where they're coming from, what they're trying to do. Maybe I'm the wrong fit, the rest of it. And if I think from their answers that I'm not the right fit, I'll just tell them like I'm probably not the right fit for this and not even pitch the process. Yeah. So first, I think, you talk to people about storytelling, things you want to do, and just kind of engage. Get used to engaging people without just putting everything in a Microsoft Word document and making that be the end-all, be-all, of the spark that can get you going. And then when, you get hired to do the thing, you write the script, you send the script to your editor gives you notes. Now, I tend to write scripts that push it pretty far because I like working with editors. So I will push it past the limit intentionally and then make them, kind of make it work inside of their paradigm. And I think that's a great relationship to have. And then when they give me the notes, I put the notes in, note it back down. I've gotten great notes from Chris Conroy and David Weigelaws on Detective that have made the story better. I've gotten great notes from Maggie and Andy over on American Carnage, made the story better. So, you work with your editors, and then you do that, then you turn it in, and then the artist gets to the hard work of actually drawing your book. So from there, you will see art, usually. It usually won't be in sequence because, an artist is going to draw what they want to draw when they want to draw it, because they know how long it's going to take them to do page 15 versus page 2, what have you. Depends on where your splash is. You got a 9-panel grid, the whole thing, right? All different things. And then you see the art. I don't really comment a lot on art because I have a lot of respect for the craft of it. So the only time I will comment on a piece of art is if the art has done something so awesome that I think what I wrote wasn't quite good enough to support it. So I might be like, the first panel of this kicks so much ass. Can we make a slight adjustment to the third panel so this page works better? Because what you've done is better than what I did, and that'll happen a lot. Yeah. And then you see your art with your letters, and I give lettering notes, back. And usually it's cutting. Most of the time when I'm looking at my letters on top of art, I start cutting dialogue because the art oftentimes makes some of my dialogue redundant. Oh, well, hell. that Image gets it done. I don't need that coming out of this character's mouth because an Image does that. I can shorten the line. So then, yeah, you do all that, and that happens in a matter of weeks. It takes me about 12. Well, no, not 12 hours. I can probably write, if I have an outline done, I can write an issue of a comic that I think is a strong draft in about 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so, that's 20, 22 pages. And then, that's the screenwriting. When you do a lot of screenwriting, like you just get used to page counts, man. Pages just flow out.
Yeah.
So that's basically the process, and then you get the art back, you look at it, see colors, and you look at it, and then, a couple weeks later, there's a book on a shelf. So that's kind of how that goes. The great part about comics is you get that feedback really quickly from audiences and readers because they're going to get to it when it's still warm off of your laptop. It's not like a screenplay where you write a script. I've sold 4 screenplays and none of them have gotten made. I did write a Dolph Lundgren movie that got made, but even that wasn't like an instantaneous process. Yeah, it's called The Russian Specialist, I think.
Okay.
For what it is, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. And you wake up one day, you're going to Amazon, going to your Netflix, whatever you're doing, you're looking around, and I saw Captain America, I saw that last week, don't want to see that again. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? Well, you can watch The Russian Specialist. It'll get you there.
Wow. Okay. Russian Specialist, as good as
The Russian Specialist.
You just said it.
Was that like 2005?
I think so, bro. It was definitely a time when the world was simpler than it is now. So it was probably around there, I think. Fucking hell. Sorry, you just made me think about 2005 and the shit I was worried about then.
Right?
I was like, oh.
No, seriously.
Geez.
I get it.
Yeah. So, you just get used to things not getting made ever, but definitely not quickly. So the speed with which once you're hired for a job, those books are coming out, and they're going to come out relatively soon after you write those scripts. Right. So my experience writing Postal, that's a 25-issue run I did of that book. And it was influenced by the way people were reacting to it. I would see what they were reacting to, and I'd look at my storyboard and say, you know what? Like, people are really kind of vibing on this. This thing that was going to be a C story, I might make that a B story instead, because I think people will get something out of that. It's almost like there's a kind of symbiotic kind of relationship you have with your readers.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there was a second question. That was one or two. One or two.
Yeah,
one or two.
That was a hell of an
one
answer.
Or two.
The second one, he was wondering if there are any like obvious flaws in the industry that you can think of.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Man, why don't you just last answer? Well, this will be easy.
Yeah, why don't you just make it easy for me and ask me about Robert Mueller? Okay. Well, it's hard, man, because when you say the industry, right? That's a really big umbrella to put a ton of companies and books under. So I don't think there's many issues that I think rain on all of us at the same time. But the one thing that I do think that can be a little better is the level of like tribalism and contentiousness that I'm seeing out there.
Okay.
I think we would be better off getting away from that a little bit. There's a lot of hyperbole out there. There's a lot of rhetoric, right? And I think maybe calming down the hyperbole and calming down the rhetoric might be a good thing. I mean, I'm all for people having conversations that come from different perspectives, passionate conversations. I mean, that happens. Dialectic is important, but so quickly, and part of this is the age of the soundbite and the age of the tweet and the thing and the insta thought, right? Like, we live in this culture of insta thought, and a lot of times it's I feel a thing, I say a thing, then I think about it. And I think it might need to be I feel a thing, I think about it, and then I say a thing. or I feel a thing and think about it, then I, keep my mouth shut. But like, I think that it isn't. I don't think it's helping the overall environment. I had a conversation with Spike Lee once, and we were in an elevator, and this was back when I was at NYU.
Okay.
And he asked me, what my favorite movie was that like tackled issues of racism or prejudice, what have you. This was years and years ago, and I said Lethal Weapon. And he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting." He's like, "Why Lethal Weapon?" I'm like, "Because racists ain't watching Malcolm X, bro." like what anti-Semite watches Schindler's List? I talked to a bunch of them. Schindler's List isn't part of their library. Like they might watch themselves some E.T.
They might watch a little Jaws. Get the shark. They might watch the shark.
The shark is
but
for a black person. Though. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, that's deep. See, now your shit's coming out. But yeah, so like, and he like looked at me and was like, "All right, that's interesting," but that's how like that's kind of the thing. Like when you're screaming at the top of your voice and you're making your point in the most acerbic and snarky way possible, you're probably not going to convince anybody of anything. All you're going to do is collect people that agree with you, right? It's choir shouting. You're bubble building.
Okay.
And I think, pulling back on the heat of the rhetoric out there would be a good thing. I mean, we unfortunately we live in a culture where you can make a lot of money by complaining about shit. And I part of me respects people who do it, because I don't know how you can wake up every day and be like, well, I have to see what's fucked up about things today. Like, I don't understand how you can live like that, but like, look, more power to you. But, yeah, I think, I just don't think that's super healthy. And I think our divisions get exacerbated, and we wind up making villains of each other when we're not really villains of each other. And I think that could be maybe a better thing, just as a whole, for everybody, for creators, for readers, for critics, the whole thing. It's just that we're piling on a little bit, and I'm not sure how healthy that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how's that for a diplomatic answer? That was pretty good, right?
That was amazing.
See, you're trying to get me like talk about distribution or something, but see, I didn't slip. So you try to catch me slipping. You're like, yeah, I got a question here. It's from random fella. If you could kill anyone in the comics industry, who would you kill and how?
Wow, no, that was a great answer though. Wow.
Well, I try to make sure that we can all work together, and we want to make sure that we can move the country in the best direction for all the people, because the folks out there deserve our best.
You don't talk enough about how good your impersonations are.
Oh man, I was a stand-up comic for about 2 hours. Real talk. I've moved through a lot of phases of life, y'all. I've done many things trying to find myself. And there was a little bit of time I was dating a girl at the time who was a brilliant comedian. And she was running some sets, and she's like, "You're funny, you should be there." And like a fool, I believe what my girlfriend said to me. So I didn't realize she was just being nice. I thought shit was real, right? Like, oh, I'm funny. She says I'm funny. I'm gonna go be funny.
Yeah, you
man,
get
I got.
She's like, "Oh, honey, you shouldn't have done that."
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you did." Real. That's what happened. So there used to be this thing. I don't know if they still do it now. Like, this is back when I just came out of NYU, and it was like the whole post college kind of vibe. And back then, they used to do these stand up comedy open mics.
Yeah.
Where anyone who had a set, to run, you get like 5 minutes, and you go up there and you could do your little thing, man. And I got up on that stage, and I thought I had like some jokes, and I found out how long 5 minutes can be. There's a big difference between like the 5 minutes that you want to sleep before you have to get up, and like somebody stabbing your toe for 5 minutes. Like one is short and one is long. And that up on stage with people just looking at you being like, you better make me laugh. And I heard one person back being like, he's black, he better be funny. And I was like, and they wouldn't be like a racist way. They wouldn't like, okay. I was like, don't okay me. I don't know. I'm not Richard Pryor. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just up here because my girlfriend said I should be up here. Man, so I stood up there. I bombed. I forgot all the jokes. And I was like telling the punchlines first. It was a hot mess. And then I came back and talked to her. And she's like, you did what? I'm like, you said I was funny. She's like, I didn't really mean it. I meant you were like funny, like civilian funny. You're not like professionally funny. So that was my yeah.
Well, no, maybe give it another shot sometime. Maybe think about it first.
No, I'm good. No, I'd be a crash test dummy before I did that again, man.
Oh man. Well, Zach, do you have anything else?
No, that's
for this one. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Bryan, thanks for the interview, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Well, man, thanks for having me on, man, and I hope your listeners got something out of that. I believe I talked about comics for at least 15% of that. So
yeah. So, hey, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's a good number. That's a good thing. It's a good number. 15.
I think they're used to it by this point because we tend to go off on some pretty bad.
Yeah, no.
Oh, right on.
This was our most structured episode.
Oh man, I gotta listen to some more of them. Then, what do you guys do? Coke before you do the other ones?
Now, I didn't say that.
And kids, don't do the drugs. Drugs are bad. The Hill administration does not support drug use. Tie your shoes, brush your teeth, clean your ears.
No, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we go, do you have anything else you want to plug really quick?
Oh yeah.
Oh sure. Well, Cyberforce. I'm writing the relaunch of that with Matt and Mark Silvestri. That is on shelves now. I think the third issue is on shelves now. We're doing that. Comes out every month. I have a miniseries that I'm writing about a character, Aphrodite 5, who's connected to that world of Cyberforce, but
yeah.
It's like an offshoot sort of Tony Scott meets RoboCop action sci-fi Ghost in the Shell thing that Jeff Spokes is doing the art for. Attilio Rojo was doing the art for Cyberforce, and he's awesome. And Jeff Spokes is doing the art on Aphrodite, and I think that drops around Comic-Con. And then I think that's kind of it.
Thanks for listening to this episode on the Subject. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it, subscribe, rate us on whatever podcast source you're using. For more content or to reach out to us, follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at On The Subject. And for more details, links are in our show notes. Thanks again.
This has been a Geeks Rising production, your executive producer of Vandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.